Okay, let's talk about the importance of land. Land is a very precious commodity in the earth which produces whatever seed that is planted in the earth, which means that land is 100% vital for our existence on earth. And if you got some land and work it right, you can actually live off the produce of your land. So black people, that ought to minister to you about something if you got any land. During the time of Reconstruction, Lincoln, of course, was assassinated. Andrew Johnson took over the presidency, and two white men in government stood up for blacks at that time as they was being released from slavery. One named Thaddeus Stevens, the other name is Charles Sumner. Now, Thaddeus Stevens told Congress that if you don't give the blacks, ex-slaves, 40 acres and a mule and $100, they will always be slaves. But the President Andrew Johnson said, no, let the niggers fend for themselves and work, or let the niggers starve to death. Now, this was diabolically unfair to a people who had been hopeless and defenseless for almost 400 years. And Thaddeus Stevens, he even protested upon his death before he died that he requested to be buried in an all-black cemetery to protest the wicked evilness of how the government was treating blacks. And then, of course, they had the nerve, the audacity to pass a bill called the Homestead Act, which gave whites free land without ever paying a dime for it. Now, when you talk about reparations, the only people that ever received reparations were former slave masters and other ethnic groups who the United States has abused for many, many years. But blacks did not receive anything. They was excluded from out of the picture. Now, Malcolm X said that the basis of our freedom is the ownership of land. Was he so forever right? Of course he was. And of course, we understand that whites are marching all over the United States trying to occupy places for jobs. And we know, black people, that we are in trouble. We should have been taking advice from people like Minister Farrakhan and Dr. Claude Anderson years ago, because they had an awesome plan for us, and it'll still work today if we adopt that plan and implement it in our lives each and every day. And I'm still waiting for one leader in Jacksonville, Florida, or any other city to come up with an economic development plan. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous that we cannot find out one leader here in Jacksonville to come up with one. So we must envision it in our own minds, and we must go forward without them. Now, I drive a truck for a living, and I told y'all that. I talked to a lot of farmers, and I talked to one farmer. He told me he was making about $13,000 a day selling palm trees. Now listen to me. The only way that can happen is because somebody's in ownership and control of land. And you ought to see some of the farmers' houses out there. I mean, they got some mansions out there on the hill, and that from which they work in the back of their farms. So land is very, very important. So it was very hard for us to get it. They didn't give us our land, and now it's even harder for us to buy some of the land. And listen, man, we tired of advice. We don't want to take any advice from any kind of black leader who is not concerned with us getting our own land and starting to come up with one development concerning economics. We need some economic power. We need money, black people. That is our problem. It's been our problem for a long time. And we need more money on top of money, and more money on top of that. We can't get not one city council member in Jacksonville to come into our neighborhood and hold a meeting and tell us where our black dollars are going. Now, that is a shame, because I believe that's economic genocide, and I believe that these black leaders has been put in place by other people to help control us and to keep us quiet. But at Black Media Incorporated, we're not going to be quiet. We're gonna raise the roof. We're going to blow the whistle. We're going to point out these people so you know who they are, and you need to do the same thing in your city, because we are suffering. And I'm tired of black people going to church every Sunday trying to hide their pain and their suffering under the blood of Jesus. Listen, man, you got people that's out there right now building businesses. Right now, that's building businesses for them and their own people. They got a vision, and they got it wrote down on blueprint. And that's what we need to be doing. And if you got anything to say, hey, email me at sellforyounow@yahoo.com. And let me know about what you're doing and what you're planning in your own city, so we can hook up and get some social media going on around here, because in Jacksonville, Florida, like I said, there's none. Nobody want to talk about these problems. They didn't want to talk about it. One lady said, well, Ron, we got one black radio station, Tom Joyner and Janford Brown, they laugh too much. We don't need no grown people who is not concerned about our issues on the radio, laughing and giggling all the time about some stupid stuff. And while the masses of black people are suffering each and every day, can't even find a job. We don't need no Tom Joyner. Tom Joyner can't talk about some of these issues I'm talking about, because he knows that his white corporate sponsors we'll unplug him, because that's what white power structural racism does. And that's why these guys need to stop receiving these corporate sponsors to run their businesses and run their radio stations and things like that. We need our own black-owned radio station down here in Jacksonville, Florida, so we can talk about the issues concerning us. And I believe that. And it will get started with Black Media Incorporated. I'm your brother Ron Washington saying happy holidays to each and every one of you. And guess what? I'll see you on the next video.